Hey. So as you know, my classmates and I are here from Warner. We're all seniors. We're here with our student teacher, Mrs. Bacarni. Well, last month we got the chance to go to Pierre and we learned a lot about the legislative process, and I'd like to defend us in not doing the PAGE program because we're all in basketball and missing games is not an option. And the question we had was over the nursing home funding bill. All three of the girls there and I work at nursing homes, so we were wondering how it works. Does it just make it cheaper for residents, or does it also just go into the quality of nursing homes? And then I was also wondering why it's being opposed. I don't have a specific person, so anyone can answer.
Thank you for the question. Before you run away, what's your name, young lady?
Lori Rogers.
Great. Introduce your other friends.
Keely Fishback, closest, Sydney Lightholt, Ashley Fishback, yes, twins, and then Dalen Simon.
Okay, great. Thank you for the question.
Yep.
Lots of different aspects there. Number one, any increases would go to the workers, because one of the things that happens in nursing homes is that because their pay scale is so low, they're always have a shortage of workers and a constant turnover, just like in community support providers like Aspire. And they end up using temporary help, which is horribly expensive and not a good business plan. Another important aspect of the nursing home discussion is that for every 50 cents that the state of South Dakota refuses to put into funding Medicaid beds in nursing homes, they're passing on another 55 cents of federal money. But we don't want to put in actually it's 43, it's about 46.54, I think. 46% state general funds. For every 46 cents we refuse to put in, we're saying, no, we don't want 54 cents of federal money. I think that's not a real logical stand to take. When Representative McCleary and I went into the appropriations room to pitch our bills, there are two things, at least two things. One thing that you hear out loud, and that is we have a silver tsunami coming, and we have to figure out how to take care of our elderly more economically. So the governor's innovation grant is, if you write me up a plan that shows me that you can accomplish this same purpose cheaper than nursing homes can, and we'll give you the seed money to get it started. I'm not an expert in that industry, but I'm a little pessimistic about finding a better way to meet this need than, for instance, the nursing home other than Britton's that I'm most familiar with and that currently is walking a fine line, and that's Roslyn. Everyone that is in that nursing home is a resident of Day County. They are able to spend their last years in their hometown or home community. It is one of the cheapest. Their costs are, they've never changed hands, so there's not some markup in there for some big company that came in and paid too much for Blue Sky or the building. It's always been community owned, and it's got one of the lowest reimbursement rates in the state because they do support it a lot through the community, just like you, and now you've seen that in Selby the community has stepped up and raised a lot of money in order to maintain that care there. But really, the attitude that you feel in Appropriations Committee is, we don't care if they close, because if they close, that's just that many fewer Medicaid beds that the state has to pitch in Medicaid money for. And we're afraid of the silver tsunami that's coming, and we don't want to have to keep putting more Medicaid money in, so let's just let them go. If we move, they can take those beds, and for one reason or another, for one thing in Sioux Falls, you're not, the incomes are higher. You know, the incomes in Mobridge were quite low, and their Medicaid patient load was something like 70%. So any private pay patient that existed in the Mobridge community was probably driving to see their mom in Ashley or somewhere where they weren't having to carry, where their private pay rates weren't as high as they were in Mobridge, because Mobridge was trying to cover the costs of the Medicaid patients on the back of the private patients. So that is particularly hard on all of our border nursing homes, because we're all competing with states that more responsibly fund their nursing homes than South Dakota does. I could go on and on, but I'll stop there.
Thank you for the question. Hopefully I wasn't picking on you too much. I understand you do other activities, but you missed a great opportunity. But I'm going to respectfully disagree with the prior speaker. I've never heard anybody on the Appropriation Committee or in the Senate say, we really don't care if they close. That hasn't been said anywhere near my ear. So, one of the other things I'll mention is I get about 100 emails a day. And I try to respond to as many as I can, and I particularly try to respond to ones that come from Brown County. And so, being 200 emails behind, because I've been away for a day and a half, I was multitasking, and I was just writing an email back to an Aberdeen constituent. And his letter says, and I'll paraphrase his letter. His letter says, horse racing is really important. Horse racing in Brown County, there's two places we horse race in South Dakota, Aberdeen and Pierre. And the argument for horse racing is, I spend a lot of money in your community, I buy things, I hire people, I pay sales tax, and it's important your community provides entertainment. And he's absolutely right. So here's my response back to him, that I was multitasking when you were asking the question. It solves the problem, it helps me answer the question. My answer to him is, one of our choices is to fund nursing homes, and I put in brackets, as some have closed, or to fund horse racing, or to fund education for students, or to fix roads. I say, $1 can be only spent once. This year, I believe our priority is to our elderly in the nursing homes. Aspire, a group in Aberdeen that cares for the severely handicapped, is also a priority. Respectfully, Al Norstrup. So that's my response to, and that's an honest choice. Horse racing or nursing home, and you can't spend the $1 twice. Having conversations with leadership and appropriators, I predict things are going to go well. We do have a limited amount of budget, or a limited dollar amount, and we have lots of great priorities, as indicated in my email. But every day, this session, and it changes from year to year. Some years it's teacher salaries is important, fixing roads is important, it changes. But this year, everybody every day says nursing homes are top priority. So I think that the increase is going to be substantially better than I've seen in 17 years. That's a prediction. Might not be good enough, might not be perfect, but it's a real honest effort to do as much as we can. Thank you.
Yeah. We do have some things on there for nursing home, but $8 million was the bill that Stephen McCleary brought in, and it would have been amounted to about $19 million after everything was matched, and that went through Health and Human Services, and it really came out of there strong. When you go to work on these projects, you know, you can be in a committee and you can say yes, and then it goes to the floor and they say yes. And then it goes over to the other side and they say in a committee, no. And then it stops, right? Was it a bad idea? I see how these politicians in Washington, D.C. do this. They say, hey, I voted for it. I said it was okay. Well, if it stops, then it's not okay. And so we need to do something. And there's a $42 million shortfall according to the American Hospital Association. So it's not like I'm making this up. These are big numbers. But Selby, they went out and did local fundraising, like Susan said, they ended up getting $500,000 and they're able to sustain. But how long can they sustain, and how many fundraisers do they need to do? And then Mobridge, they reached a point where their building hit obsolescence, and they were in I would say in a bandsaw, and they couldn't reverse. So, and then the other thing that I saw the other day, I was in a committee meeting on tax exempt projects, and they mentioned that healthcare, hospital, and they went through a lot of different things. And the one name they were missing was nursing homes. And so I went up and asked afterwards, I said, how come nursing homes aren't tax exempt? And the answer was, I don't know. And I thought, geez, I'm getting this from the Department of Revenue, and they don't know why it's not tax exempt. Would this be $1 million that could be shared across the state? Would it be $5 million that could be shared? Right now it's $1.5 billion that's being in the tax exempt category right now. And I don't think nursing homes are in there. So I've made an investigative call to the Legislative Research Council on Friday just to ask that question. And I don't have an answer yet, but I will tell you that there are those that sit around and watch things happen, and then there are those that make things happen. I think that we're really fortunate because the people that you have elected up here are making things happen. And I'm not going to tell you that everything we do is perfect, because it's not, but at least we're trying to move the ball forward. And with nursing homes, I don't think we moved the ball forward enough. We have 2.5% increase in, is it salary?
Just
Medicaid rates. So we've done something, and then there's another 1% that's in there too. So we've done something. And Governor Noem has $5 million as innovation grants. And there are people that say, well, they don't need innovation grants, we just give them the money. I don't know what they need for sure. I just know that that's an area that needs funding, and I'm going to be supporting it.